Tonight, Israel officially declares war on Hamas in response to yesterday's surprise attack. And we've just learned Americans are among the dead. Terrifying new details, the massacre at a music festival. More than 260 Israelis killed there during the initial attack. Hamas fighters paragliding out of the sky, then opening fire. This woman believed kidnapped there and taken back to Gaza. Fears that more than 100 Israeli civilians were captured and now held hostage. Desperate family members pleading for help.
It has been 36 or so hours that feel like 36 days.
Israel striking back, destroying buildings in the Palestinian territory of Gaza. The death toll rising on both sides as Israel warns their full response is yet to come. The Pentagon moving U.S. military forces closer to Israel. Will they get pulled into the conflict? Rallies supporting both sides across the United States today, and the security fears at synagogues and mosques nationwide. Also in the U.S., protests after a black man was killed outside his own home by police in Alabama. New video of that incident just released.
Hey, police, get off me!
This is NBC Nightly News with Kate Snow.
Good evening. The horror of the unprecedented attack on Israel Saturday morning when armed Palestinian militants surged into that country is coming into sharper focus today. We just learned several Americans are among the dead. And of the more than 600 Israelis who died, 260 of the bodies were found at the site of a music festival inside Israel near the border with Gaza. And it appears some attending the festival may have been taken hostage. Fighting raged on today with pockets of Palestinians still inside Israeli borders and Israel retaliating again with military strikes against Gaza. The number of Palestinian deaths now over 320. And the U.S. military is now sending an aircraft carrier strike group to the region in support of Israel, also potentially to help evacuate Americans from there. We have a lot to cover tonight. We begin with Raf Sanchez in Israel.
Tonight, Israel taking the war to Gaza. Hundreds of airstrikes bringing buildings crashing down. Targeting what the Israeli military says are Hamas tunnels and command centers.
Israel is preparing for every instance, including a ground invasion, air invasion, everything. This is our 9/11.
But inside Israel's own territory, fierce gun battles underway, with Palestinian militants still at large. More than 24 hours after launching their surprise attack. People cowering in their cars as fighting rages on this highway. More than 600 Israelis killed, according to the government, a staggering toll that's rising by the hour. The White House National Security Council confirming several Americans are among the dead. New video showing how, under the cover of rockets, Hamas fighters infiltrated Israel by paraglider. This music festival, one of their first targets. Israeli emergency services saying 260 people were killed here.
They were just all around me, and they were going tree by tree and shooting everywhere from two sides. And I saw many people were dying, all around.
Here, a festival goer screams for help as she's dragged into Gaza. Her boyfriend, hands behind his back, helpless to save her. Her name is Noah Argamani, a 25-year-old student, and the only child of her father, Yaakov. Noah seen inside Gaza here, apparently unharmed.
If you could speak to the people who are holding Noah, what would you tell them?
Please don't hurt her. Please, this is a cry from a father. Don't harm her. Send her back in one piece. I beg you, please. We reach the southern city of Sderot, where bullet casings crunch underfoot, evidence of the thousands of rounds fired here.
This is all that's left of an Israeli police station that was overrun by Hamas militants. There was a 20-hour gun battle here.
With rockets streaking overhead, our team running for the nearest bomb shelter. But in Gaza, where 2 million civilians live under Hamas rule, there are no bomb shelters to run to. and the death toll among ordinary Palestinians, including children, expected to climb. Tonight, rockets fired from Lebanon by Hezbollah militants aligned with Hamas. The latest sign that a war which started in the Holy Lands may not end here.
Raf Sanchez joins us now. Raf, it is almost too much to process. What is Israel saying about the possibility of sending ground troops into Gaza?
Kate, Israel's military says all options are on the table, but over the course of the day, we have seen columns of Israeli tanks moving towards the Gaza border, a possible sign that a ground offensive is imminent. Kate.
All right, Raf, thank you for your reporting there. We just told you about one apparent kidnapping. There appear to be many more. Tonight, we're hearing about the final desperate messages sent to loved ones, and we now know Americans are among those feared missing. Kelly Kobiella is in Tel Aviv, and a warning now, the images here are disturbing.
Tonight, agony and desperation from mothers, brothers, and friends. Their loved ones missing at that music festival.
She was talking to me and saying, "Mommy, help us, we don't know what to do." And I'm on the phone with her and I'm saying, "Romy, we love you, it's okay. We're trying to find a way to take you out of there."
Meirav Lashem was on the phone with her daughter, 23-year-old Romy, Saturday morning when she heard her scream. Ben Shimoni was trying to help people escape, his girlfriend says, now begging for help to find him on social media.
We have nothing, and he was saving those people.
Israel's ambassador to the UK says more than 100 Israelis are believed to have been taken hostage, and possibly Americans as well.
We've seen reports about hostages, and there again, we're very actively trying to verify them and nail that down.
Meaning that there could be some U.S. citizens who have been taken hostage as well, Mr. Secretary?
That's correct.
Hirsch Goldberg Poland could be one of those Americans. He was also at that music festival. As militants rampaged, he texted his parents, "I love you," and "I'm sorry," and then nothing.
It has been 36 or so hours that feel like 36 days. I can't believe it's only been since yesterday that we're kind of in this situation.
Across Israel, chilling stories are emerging. Yoni Asher's entire family, his wife and 2 young girls, were abducted while away visiting relatives. His wife calling him for help.
The last thing she said to me was that there are terrorists in the house.
This video showing Yoni's wife and daughters along with his mother-in-law being loaded onto a truck. All he could do was track his wife's phone all the way to Gaza.
And later on, I located her mobile phone and saw it's in Khan Yunis. And only later on, I saw the video.
This video, released by Hamas, showing a group of women being held at an undisclosed location by the Qassam brigades. The hostages are believed to be hidden throughout Gaza, likely being used as human shields and to blunt a full-scale Israeli counterattack. And they are also powerful bargaining chips. In 2006, Hamas fighters seized Gilad Shalit and held him for 5 years. He was ultimately exchanged for more than 1,000 Palestinian prisoners.
Kelly, you spoke to these family members. It's heartbreaking to hear them. What sticks with you the most?
Well, they're incredibly grief-stricken, of course, but what's making it even more difficult for them is they say they're not hearing anything from the Israeli government. Kate?
Kelly Kobiella, thank you. The Pentagon today announced the U.S. is sending military assets closer to Israel, including one of the Navy's most advanced aircraft carriers. Courtney Kuby covers the Department of Defense for us. She was first to report this move. Courtney, what do we know?
Yeah, that's right, Kate. The Pentagon announcing the USS Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group is heading to the eastern Mediterranean. Now, that includes the Navy's newest aircraft carrier, the Ford, and cruisers and 4 guided missile destroyers. Now, these ships can launch missiles that can hit both targets on the land and be used for air defense. This is a show of support, but also a show of power. The U.S. goal is to deter Hamas and anyone supporting Hamas from further attacks. The U.S. is also adding additional air power on land near Israel, including F-35s, the most advanced fighter aircraft in the U.S. arsenal. Kate?
So, Courtney, does this mean the U.S. military could get pulled into the war?
Well, the U.S. officials I'm speaking with insist that at this point there is no active consideration for sending U.S. boots on the ground. Kate?
Courtney Kube, thank you. A reminder of the geography here. This is the Gaza Strip, about 140 square miles, one of the most densely populated places on Earth, with 2 million Palestinians there. Israel withdrew its forces from Gaza nearly 20 years ago. But along with Egypt, it still controls all of Gaza's land and sea borders, as well as its airspace. Inside of Gaza, the Hamas militant group is in charge. Hamas is deemed a terrorist group by the United States. Its goals include ending Israel's occupation of Palestinian territories, but they also call for the complete destruction of Israel. If we zoom out even more, Israel has long been the world's only Jewish state, with some of its neighbors opposed to its very existence. The U.S. has always supported Israel, calling it the lone democracy in the region. Let's turn now to Gabe Gutierrez with more on the Biden administration response.
Tonight, with the fighting raging in Gaza and Congress paralyzed, unable to act without a House Speaker, there are mounting questions about future U.S. aid to Israel.
Any sort of additional appropriations would require a functional House of Representatives, and so we'd like to see that situation resolved as soon as possible.
The U.S. already provides $3.8 billion a year in military assistance to Israel, one of its closest allies. President Biden speaking again today with Prime Minister Netanyahu as the UN Security Council held an emergency meeting this afternoon.
This atrocity is Israel's 9/11. From now, nothing will be as it was.
It's the latest foreign policy challenge for the president. Amid fatigue over the war in Ukraine and escalating tensions between China and Taiwan, he's now facing growing backlash from his political rivals.
The Israeli attack was made because we are perceived as being weak and ineffective.
Iran funds Hamas. The Biden administration has made that a lot easier by being weak on sanctions.
Republicans are also suggesting, without evidence, that $6 billion in Iranian oil revenues that the U.S. unfroze last month in exchange for 5 American prisoners helped Hamas fund the attack, a claim the administration is strongly denying.
Not a single cent has been spent from that account. When any money is spent from that account, it can only be used for medical supplies, for food, for medicine, and those who are saying otherwise are either misinformed or misinforming.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken says he's not yet seen evidence that Iran directed this particular attack, but that Iran and Hamas have had a long relationship. U.S. officials are also looking into whether recent efforts to broker an agreement to normalize relations between Israel and Saudi Arabia may have driven the Palestinian militants to attack.
Certainly that could have been part of the motivation.
Gabe, it was such a surprise attack. Has the Biden administration acknowledged that it was a huge intelligence failure?
They're not using that word, Kate. The White House says its immediate focus is getting Israel the help it needs. And the Deputy National Security Advisor says now is not the time to look backwards. Kate?
Gabe Gutierrez for us. There were rallies across the U.S. today, both in support of Israel and in support of the larger Palestinian cause. It comes as security was ramped up at synagogues and mosques nationwide. Kathy Park reports from New York.
Tonight, the crossroads of the world becoming a deep dividing point, with Palestinian supporters on one side of the street.
What brought you out here today?
To stand against the oppression that's been occurring in Palestine for over the past 5 decades.
Palestinian people have had enough.
While yards away, a tense face-off with dozens standing up for Israel.
We have a right to exist. We're not doing anything wrong.
I have friends who live in Israel. I have family who live in Israel. I've seen violence there before. We've all seen that, but this is really on another level completely.
As you can see, emotions are running high. This rally is now on the move. We're told they're headed straight to the Israeli consulate.
Palestine will be free from the river to the sea.
And similar scenes playing out across the country.
Right to resist! Right to resist! Right to resist!
The growing movement on both sides heightening security from coast to coast. The NYPD keeping close watch on the ground and in the air, launching drones to monitor today's events. While in Salt Lake City, police increased patrols following unspecified threats targeting Jewish institutions. Synagogues in Miami Beach and Beverly Hills ramping up their presence too. Tonight, the crisis in the Middle East fueling demonstrations thousands of miles away. But despite the conflict, some hope for peace.
People around the world need to be hopeful, here in America and around the world, because whatever divisions we have, our humanity supersedes them.
And Kathy's with us here in New York. So New York City's taking some extra measures now?
Kate, that's right. We saw that today, and we understand that those extra efforts will extend to synagogues and mosques until further notice. Kate?
Kathy Park, thank you. After the break, protests over a deadly police shooting and the new video that shows what happened as a young man was gunned down right in his front yard. Outrage is growing in Alabama tonight following the death of a man shot and killed by police in his front yard. And we're seeing newly released video of the deadly confrontation from the morning it all happened. Morgan Chesky reports.
This video, caught on a neighbor's doorbell camera, captures the moment the Perkins family says police fatally shot 39-year-old Steve Perkins.
Police, get back!
The warning appearing to come immediately before police open fire, killing the husband and father.
There's one male down. Need an ambulance ASAP.
Authorities have yet to verify the video shared by the family's attorney to NBC News. The deadly confrontation around 2 a.m. September 29th stemmed from a tow truck driver trying to repossess Perkins' truck. Police say the driver arrived earlier, but left when Perkins flashed a gun, then came back hours later, accompanied by Decatur police.
They started firing before they even got the full first command out of their mouth.
The department states Perkins brandished the weapon towards an officer, causing the officer to fire. Perkins' older brother, Nicholas, in heartbroken disbelief.
When you watch that video, what do you see?
I see a murder. Cold-blooded murder.
Questions over Perkins' death prompted week-long protests and calls for transparency after his family's attorney says Perkins had no idea it was police in his front yard.
It doesn't matter whether he had a weapon or not. He never was given an opportunity to comply, and if he had a weapon, he was well within his rights to carry a firearm.
The city's placed one officer on leave and has not released police body camera video from the incident. Alabama's law enforcement agency is now leading a third-party investigation.
And what hurts most is we don't have any answers. This family needs answers. This community needs answers.
Morgan Chesky, NBC News.
That is NBC Nightly News for this Sunday night. Stay right here for Sunday Night Football. Tonight's matchup, the Dallas Cowboys versus the 49ers. I'm Kate Snow. For all of us here at NBC News, stay safe. Have a great night.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.